New Orleans, 1918, a city of jazz, voodoo, and shadows. But in the dead of night, a monster was slipping through back doors, using the victim's own axes to deliver a bloody message. He claimed to be a demon from hell, and on March 13, 1919, he issued a chilling ultimatum. Every house where a jazz band was playing would be spared. That night, the city screamed with music to keep the devil away.
Let's dive into one of America's most chilling and bizarre unsolved cases, the Axeman. Picture this, New Orleans, 1918. It's all jazz and great food, but something terrifying is lurking. His reign of terror was short, but absolutely brutal, kicking off in 1918. For 18 terrifying months, no one felt safe in their own homes, especially at night. And this killer, he had a signature. It was super specific and honestly, just terrifying. He'd sneak in by chiseling a panel out of the back door. Then, he'd use their own axe. And the weirdest part, he never stole a thing. This wasn't about money, which made it way scarier. People started noticing a pattern. Many victims were Italian Americans. Was this a hate crime? Just as the city's panic was at its absolute peak, the killer himself decided to speak up. Big time. He sent a letter to the local papers, and its return address? Just one word: hell. He claimed, "I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell." And he even taunted the police, saying, "I am what you call the Axeman." But then the letter got really strange. He made a bizarre demand, mixing music and murder. His deal was this: if your house is blasting jazz music, he'd leave you completely alone. He gave them a specific date, March 19th, 1919, a night for a deadly choice. So on that night, the choice was simple: play jazz or risk paying the ultimate price. And you know what? The whole city did it. Dance halls were packed, bands played everywhere. And true to his bizarre word, nobody was attacked that night. The music actually worked. But the relief didn't last long. The attack started up again, right through that summer and fall. Then, after one last brutal murder in October, he just stopped, vanished. Just like that, he was gone. No note, no clues, nothing. He was never heard from again.
So what do we know? The method, the letter. What we don't know, well, pretty much everything else.
It's the question that still haunts New Orleans over a century later. Who was the Axeman?
The Axeman didn't just kill, he played a psychological game. He never stole anything, and he always used an axe found on the premises. His letters to the newspapers were filled with occult references and a strange obsession with jazz. Was he a local madman, or something far more sinister that vanished as quickly as he appeared? Let's trace the cold steel and the haunting notes of a killer who was never caught.
All right, let's take a trip back in time, way back, over a century ago, to New Orleans. We're going to a time when a city's survival literally depended on its music. This is the story of a chilling bargain, where playing the right song could save your life, and silence could mean a brutal death. So, let's just jump right in with the killer's own words, shall we? In March of 1919, this letter, claiming to be from the serial killer known as the Axeman, shows up at city newspapers, and it contains this chilling claim and an even more bizarre demand that held the entire city completely hostage. So right away, this is the big question, isn't it? What kind of minds are we dealing with here? A deranged individual with a strange love for jazz music? Or was it something else entirely? To even begin to figure that out, you have to understand the sheer terror that had already gripped the city. To really get why that letter had so much power, we need to rewind a bit. We have to look at the bloody trail of terror that had already paralyzed New Orleans for nearly a full year. It all kicks off in May of 1918. Suddenly, these brutal and what seemed like totally random attacks start happening. People are being assaulted in the dead of night in what should be the safest place in the world, their own beds. The pattern was as horrifying as it was consistent. And pretty quickly, a really terrifying pattern starts to emerge. I mean, his signature was so precise. He'd chisel a panel out of a back door, find an axe on the property, often belonging to the victim, and then attack them while they slept. But here's what truly baffled the police. What he didn't do. Valuables, cash, jewelry, always left behind. This wasn't about money. This was about something way more disturbing. And investigators couldn't help but notice that most victims were Italian-American grocers, which led to all sorts of dark theories about vendettas or maybe even mob hits. The police? Oh, they were absolutely stumped. I mean, the lack of any clear motive and just the sheer brutality of it all led seasoned detectives like John D'Antonio to actually speculate in public that they were hunting a man living a double life. A real-life Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde who could be your neighbor by day and a monster by night. So you've got a city just gripped by fear. Police have absolutely no leads, and then the killer himself decides to break the silence. On March 13th, 1919, he sends that infamous letter, the one that would forever cement his demonic legacy. Now this is where we really get inside his head. He's not just saying he's a killer, he's rejecting his own humanity. By claiming to be a demon, he's putting himself above all of us, above the law. From a criminal psychology perspective, this isn't just some crazy rant, it's a huge window into an extreme narcissism and a deep pathological need for power. You know, this behavior lines up perfectly with what psychologists call a God complex. We're talking about someone who has this unshakable belief that they are special, that they're infallible, and that they're operating on a level way above the rest of us. He's not just breaking the rules. He truly believes he's the one who gets to make them. And this quote right here, this tells you everything you need to know about his endgame. It's about total, absolute power. He wanted to be the one and only authority on who lived and who died in New Orleans. That letter wasn't just a taunt. It was a declaration of his own godhood and his complete control over the city. So here it is, the big test, his terrifying proposition, the ultimate test of his power. A simple, totally bizarre command. Fill the night with jazz music, or you might just become his next victim. It was this macabre bargain, offered up by a self-proclaimed demon. And what happens next is just incredible. The city actually does it. On the night of March 19th, New Orleans doesn't cower in fear. No, it erupts in this massive, defiant wave of jazz music. Dance halls were packed to the rafters. You had bands, professional and amateur, playing in homes all across the city. And true to his word, no one was murdered. For one single night, music had actually silenced a demon. But here's the thing. That legendary, incredible night of jazz, it wasn't the end of the story. Not by a long shot. The music eventually faded, and the fear came creeping back. The attacks did continue, before stopping just as mysteriously as they had started. Sure enough, about 5 months later, he's back. The attacks continue for several more months. The final victim we know of, Mike Pepitone, was murdered in his home in late October 1919. And in a chilling detail, his wife actually awoke just in time to see a large, axe-wielding man fleeing from their bedroom. And after that last murder, just silence. The attack stopped. The man who had terrorized an entire city, the self-proclaimed demon from hell, simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but fear and a whole lot of unanswered questions. Now, the case officially went cold. But, modern researchers have dug into this, and one name keeps popping up as a pretty compelling person of interest: Frank Doc Mumphrey. See, Mumphrey owned a jazz-related business in the city, and according to some accounts, that business was really struggling, right up until the Axeman's letter created a mandatory citywide demand for jazz music. Was it just a dark coincidence, or maybe the most sinister marketing ploy in all of history? We'll probably never know for sure. And this is the question that really just haunts this entire case, right? Why did he suddenly stop? Did he die? Was he maybe arrested for some other crime? Or, and this is maybe the most chilling thought of all, did he simply get what he wanted, that proof of his ultimate power, and just decide he was bored with his deadly game? So, in the end, what are we left with? Let's talk about how this very real flesh and blood killer transformed into something else entirely, an immortal piece of New Orleans folklore. Because at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. The terror ended, but the mystery never did. The Axeman of New Orleans was never caught, never officially identified. The case is still wide open. So, he's no longer just a criminal in a case file. He's become this ghost in the city's history, a true boogeyman born from this completely unique and terrifying mix of music and murder. Was he really some kind of spirit like he claimed? Or is the truth that a mere mortal could hold an entire city in his thrall even more disturbing? It's a chilling question that honestly still hangs in the air on the vibrant streets of New Orleans. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.
The music in New Orleans eventually faded, but the Axeman was never unmasked, leaving behind a legacy of fear and a haunting question. Who was the man behind the blade? Some killers want blood, while others want to watch an entire society crumble under their shadow. Stay tuned, because the next case takes us to Japan in the 1980s, where a mysterious group calling themselves the Monster with 21 Faces held the nation's food industry hostage with poison candy and taunting letters, playing a deadly game of cat and mouse that the police could never win. This is Terminal Trace.